What are your views on the political and the financial systems that get set in the US and their contribution in the rise of the US?
Strangely, the United States has struggled its entire existence with the banking system. And we still do not have a very good banking system. We have lots of banks. We also have lots of bank regulators. We have the Federal Reserve. We have the controller of the currency. We have the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation. All of those govern banks. And the problem here, basically, was Alexander Hamilton, who founded the American financial system. He wanted to set up a bank modeled on the Bank of England. It was called the Bank of the United States. This would be a central bank that would discipline other banks, transfer money from one part of the country to another, and would be the primary borrowing agent for the government when it needed to borrow. Thomas Jefferson hated banks. He hated any large entrepreneurial activity. He wanted this country to be nothing but a group of yeoman farmers. It was this is, George Orwell once said that an idea so stupid only an intellectual could believe it. Thomas Jefferson believing that we could be nothing but a bunch of yeoman farmers was a typical idea that only an intellectual could believe. And so the Jeffersonians killed the Bank of the United States in 1812. A new one was set up 5 years later, but Andrew Jackson, a thoroughgoing Jeffersonian, when it came to finance, he killed it in 1836, and for the next 70 years, the United States was the only major country in the world that had no central bank to be a lender of last resort and to apply discipline to the many other banks. Banks that were set up between 1800 and 1810, half of them had failed by 1820. This happened over and over and over again. Bank failure in the United States is American as apple pie. And we, finally in 1913, we set up a new central bank called the Federal Reserve. He didn't get it right the first time. And so after 5,000 banks failed in the early 1930s in the Great Depression, we reorganized the Federal Reserve, and we got it mostly right by this time. But we still have 50 states regulate banks as well as the federal government. And we just this year, we had 3 major bank failures. And the Federal Reserve admitted that it didn't get it right, that it was partly, it didn't prevent the Silicon Valley Bank from having such a concentration of deposits. I mean, all the depositors, they were all in the same business, essentially. And that's, narrow bases are always weak bases. And so we still have, work to do on the banking system. On the financial system, on the other hand, Wall Street has worked very, very well. Since the very beginning, in 1792, when we started trading on Wall Street, it grew and grew. And after we had, in the 1860s, we had a sort of Wild West period in Wall Street in which nobody was regulating it. The New York State government was completely corrupt. At that time, they used to joke that, a businessman needed not only a lawyer, he needed a judge and so on. But after Wall Street cleaned up its act, starting in 1869, and rapidly grew to be as large as London and as important as London, and especially after the Atlantic cable was laid in 1866, so that New York and London could act as one market essentially, because you could communicate instantly, and a market can never be larger than the area within which communication is essentially instant. And that's what made New York the center of the financial world, was once a telegraph came in the 1840s, New York was already the largest securities market in the country. But now with the telegraph, everybody in the whole country could trade on Wall Street. And everybody, of course, you always want to trade in the biggest market because that's where both buyers and sellers get the best prices. And so, by the 1850s, New York was the only major securities market in the United States, and it's been that way ever since.
The banking system, you say, is still, imperfect, which, one can argue across the world, very few countries where you could point to a banking system and say this is perfect. But let's say it's a work in progress everywhere. The financial system you are attributing to obviously the growth of the US market, interlinkages with the superpower of that time, the UK, let's say, and that helps. What about the political system? Because, there are books that have been written about other places in the world which were economically well endowed, which had, entrepreneurial people, but did not see the kind of economic rise that the US does. So do you feel the political system was more like the banking system, imperfect, but sort of meandering along? Or was it more like the financial system, where there were maybe some more positives than negatives?
Well, there's no such thing as a perfect political system, at least not on this planet.
That's right.
And I never will be. But I think the United States has done pretty well. I mean, one example I'd love to give is that the U.S. Constitution came into effect on April 30th, 1789. The French Revolution broke out 2.5 months later, in July 14th, 1789. Well, here we are, 230 odd years later. The United States is still operating under that same Constitution, amended only 27 times. And most of those were trivial or didn't affect how the government was run. It just affected personal rights, like the Bill of Rights. In France, meanwhile, they've had 3 kingdoms, 2 empires, and 5 republics. And I'm a great admirer of France, but French genius does not extend to politics.